Hey everyone, I'm Nicolas Bras, here on Soundpaint to introduce you to my new instrument, the Aquatic Harp. The instrument is quite simple: a small can with a tuning peg, a big can with a string attached in the middle, some water, the thin layer of moving water in the resonator acts like an acoustic wah-wah flanger sound. I love this sound, very alive, I sampled it a lot. I made different versions, with bigger or smaller strings. Those are always one-string instruments. I tried with multiple strings on one can, the result is not as good, but I would love to have a harp with this system. I thought about it, I drew several versions, but it was always too hard to play, too hard to record, or too difficult to make. So I sampled my instruments the best I could, changing strings to get a complete chromatic scale, and the team did a great job with this. The collaboration with Soundpaint allows me to create instruments that would make no sense in a physical version, but work perfectly as a virtual instrument. I really enjoy playing them, and I hope you will too.
Hey everyone, my name is Dan Shimolinski. People like to call me Chimy, and you can too. I am a bassist, sound designer, and composer living in Los Angeles, and we are back checking out another custom instrument from the magical, the mystical, and the mysterious mind of Nicolas Bras. As always, I'm sure he told you exactly how this thing was created, so all I can do is walk you through it and show you why it's cool. Because even though you just get one part with Aquatic Harp, it is a unique one, as are all of his custom instruments. And it is unlike any other instrument I have ever heard. Just take a listen for yourself and see how you would describe this instrument, and then I'll kind of give my take as well. Like, it almost sounds like kind of a renaissance-y harp plus guitar going through like this very, very unique phaser. Probably the most analog phaser you will ever hear. But it's just so cool, the kind of texture and timbre that this thing has. I'm mystified by just a single note. There's just so much life and organic, natural effect to it. It's beautiful. I feel like people with string instruments process their instruments to kind of achieve a similar effect, so it's very, very cool to me that this is coming from the instrument itself. And if you're one of those people like me that really appreciates maybe a choice between two timbres, like a hard part and a soft part, fear not, because the offset tool can give you just a little bit of fluff at the beginning of the note, and then this kind of becomes a soft part. Check this out. To me, that sounds like the difference akin to the tile floor keyboard hard and soft part. And it's just a great simple way to get a little bit past that initial attack if you want something softer, but you don't want to lose the note speaking right as you push the key. So as I'm sure you're hearing already, there's so much harmonic information in this part. It is just prime source material for whatever sound design direction you want to take it. So let's head over to the program section and see some of this stuff in action. I made 14 of these 15 parts, so when I do that many, I like to spend the majority just kind of dissecting them and talking a little bit about why I made them, how I made them, and hopefully it inspires you to take this library in your own direction. So let's just start up at the top. This one's called Animator. So obviously the animation is in the EQ section here. I have some animating bands to give even more of a phaser, a specific frequency kind of phaser sound to this. And of course the CCs are controlling the amount and frequency of the stereo image rotation. So this guy right here really just creates even more modulation and life within the sound. Here is Bad Organ. Yeah. So I am using the time rack module here to kind of get an almost freeze effect. Well, no, it's on 0, so it is actually a freeze effect. And then that's going into a bandpass filter, into a ladder filter, which I sometimes kind of like to use in conjunction because the bandpass will bring out a certain frequency in a way that maybe the ladder filter won't. And it just gives more harmonics poking out as you bring down the cutoff of that ladder filter than if you were to just raise the resonance on the ladder filter. Touch of EQ going into a digital reverb, and you have something that sounds like a bad organ. This one's from Marissa, and it's called Creatures of the Deep. Just gonna let that one sit. Woo! Man, that is a beautiful, beautiful program. Once again, using the time tool to slow it down and make it nice and sustainy. I mean, that's just a masterclass in using source material to create something that sounds completely different. Removing almost all of the attack and just really kind of taking that harmonic motion and stretching it out for all it's worth right into a shimmer reverb. Gotta love it. This one's called Fuzz Box. And you know, there definitely is guitar undertones to this part. So why not try out some distortion? Sick. And even more, this one's called Harmonic Distortion. Went for more of a sustain, kind of longer, drawn out harmonic distortion rather than kind of a quick punchy one with this one. Woo, those harmonics are just ringing. Awesome. And of course, I'm good for a main program with a nice little tasteful EQ and some Lexi reverb. I found that most of the buildup happened between this kind of like 240 to 260 range. Yeah, like 240. So I just put a little bit of a cut, well, not a little bit, 15 decibels down. Just kind of going for the cleanest version of the sound while also maintaining the harmonic goodies that make this instrument what it is. That is clean. Such an awesome instrument. Here's a fun shimmer reverb one called Mystical Ocean, and I think you know what this is probably going to sound like before I even play a note. Very cool. Then I've got a couple one-key programs here. If you know my style, you know I like to do these kind of one-note mystical happenings kind of thing, almost making a composition out of a single note, out of a single library. And this one features the ARP, and it's called One-Key Anticipation. Yeah. So what a unique way to get kind of an ARPy effect, ARP kind of utility out of something that sounds like that, as cool and unique as that. Here's one called One Key Cave, and I got 4 of these bad boys on here. You can check out the matrix just to see that that has a reverse behavior to the attack. So this means that the attack is actually going to be a little harder as you raise the mod wheel. That's intentional and really fun to use when you're playing the instrument. Check it out. So you can almost get a crescendo effect just by making the attack more prominent. And here's what that looks like. So we have a 1.47 second attack here that is reduced to 0.4 of a second. This one's called Orchestral. And yes, I did kind of try to mimic like a violin, viola, cello, bass utility out of these parts here. 3 octaves per note. You've got kind of the violin, viola in unison, cello an octave below, bass 2 octaves below. So a Baroque orchestra underwater. This one's called Prepped Piano, and I kind of went for the prepared piano sound, morphing it with the 1928, and the result's pretty cool. So a little flair to your piano, if you will. This one's called Sensitive Rev, and it does utilize 1 straightforward part and 1 reversed part. So big fan of using a straightforward part and a reversed part. Kind of leads into the natural sound. You get that attack and then it just drives right up. It's so cool. This next one is a fun one. It's called Transmitter, and you'll see why. So let's pop over to the matrix to see what's going on there. I've got 3 LFOs happening, one going to the pitch of part 1, and that is a square wave modulating the pitch of part 1. And then we have a second LFO going to the frequency of LFO 1, and that is a random LFO. So the frequency kind of pops around. That's what gives it this kind of stuttery kind of transmission effect. Speaking of fun LFO action, here's one that's called Warper. So kind of a warping demonic laugh sound. That's how I describe that one. Check out our matrix just to see what's going on there. Messing with both the time and the feedback of the Bucket Brigade delay, and lots of LFO action on the pitch and panning of both part 1 and 2. And finally, let's finish with water guitar. Tried to give this the most kind of acoustic guitar treatment I could. A little bit of EQ going into a compressor, some chorus, phaser, and a plate reverb. So hope you enjoy the vibes. So mod wheel controlling both the frequency and the gain almost in unison there to just give a 4K boost and kind of travel like a resonance band. So yeah, 15 very, very different takes on one single part. And I look forward to seeing you take it even further. Aquatic Harp not only gives you great source material to do crazy sound design things with, but just as an instrument alone is one of the most intriguing sounds I think I've heard in Soundpaint. I keep coming back to the fact that in a very organic, natural way, something was created that sounds like it has effects on it already, out of the box. Definitely a fun one, definitely useful, and definitely should pick it up. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Thanks so much for tuning in as always, and I will see you next time. This is Chimy, signing out. Take care.